I've never been the type to follow the rules. Hell, I didn't even know what rules were. From the moment I could walk, I was breaking things, causing chaos, and getting into trouble. My name is Lucas, and if there's one thing I've always been sure of, it's that life's a game, and I'm always playing to win. But then everything changed. It wasn't the usual trouble I was used to. This time I felt something shift in the air. The city had been quiet for days, like the world itself was holding its breath. But I didn't know it was because heaven had sent an angel to kill me. I first saw Azrael from the corner of my eye. The light around him was unreal, too bright for any human to look at without being blinded. But I wasn't human, not anymore. Or maybe I'd always been something more. I'd been hearing whispers about divine justice, about someone coming to erase me for the things I'd done. The sins I'd committed had piled up like a mountain, too high for anyone to climb, too heavy to carry. But I never thought it would be an angel sent to do the job. I never thought I'd see the face of someone so beautiful it made my heart beat in ways it shouldn't. Azrael's gaze locked onto mine. And in that instant, everything froze. His wings were pure, an ethereal white that shimmered with light, almost blinding. He stood there in the middle of the alley, looking like he had descended from heaven to wipe me off the earth. "You don't look like the one to fear me," he said, his voice calm, soothing, even as if the weight of what he was about to do didn't matter to him. But I felt it, everything he had come to do. I felt it deep in my bones. "I don't fear much, angel," I replied, trying to steady my breath as I looked at him. He was tall, towering over me like a living god, but there was something in his eyes that made me question everything I thought I knew. His eyes weren't cold. They were warm, sad, almost like he was forced into this role. Something about him made me want to approach him, despite the warning bells ringing in my head. "Why are you here?" I asked, though I knew the answer. "You know why," Azrael said softly, his expression unreadable. "I've been sent to deliver divine justice. You've been marked for your sins, Lucas." I felt the weight of those words, felt the weight of the world come crashing down on me. But the strangest thing happened. Despite knowing that he was there to end my life, I couldn't look away from him. There was something in the way he held himself, a pain that mirrored my own. And despite the tension between us, I felt drawn to him. "Is it too late?" I whispered, almost to myself. Azrael didn't respond immediately, but the look in his eyes was enough. He was torn. Torn between duty and something else, something I couldn't quite understand yet. "I was sent to kill you," he repeated, but his voice faltered as though he was fighting against an unseen force. "But something's wrong. I can't." The moment stretched between us, the air thick with unspoken words. Azrael didn't move, and neither did I. The silence was unbearable, yet comforting in a way I hadn't expected. I had been condemned to death, yet here I was, standing face to face with the very being who had come to deliver it, and there was no fear in me, only an inexplicable pull toward him. He stared at me like he was trying to figure me out, like there was something about me that didn't fit into the black and white world of heaven. His eyes softened, just for a moment, before he shook his head as if to shake off whatever he was feeling. "I can't do this," he murmured, almost too softly for me to hear. "You can," I said, my voice low. "But you don't want to." I saw it then, his hesitation. The warrior, the angel sent to destroy, was fighting something he didn't fully understand. I could see the conflict in him, a crack in the unyielding shell he'd built around himself. "You don't know what you're saying," Azrael said, his voice now a mix of frustration and guilt. "You don't know what you've done, the destruction you've caused." I could feel his anger, his certainty in his purpose. But even more than that, I felt something else, the stirrings of sympathy, compassion. It was ridiculous, almost. How could he, an angel of heaven, feel pity for someone like me? I had nothing but blood on my hands, sins that ran too deep for redemption. But when he looked at me, I didn't feel like a sinner. I felt like someone worth saving. "I know what I've done," I said, my voice cracking with a sincerity I couldn't contain. "I know. But I also know I'm more than my mistakes. Aren't you? You're not just the weapon you were created to be, Azrael. You're more than this." His wings twitched, a subtle movement that made my heart race. His face hardened again and he took a step back. "You're wrong," he said almost angrily. I am what I was created to be. And that's all I can ever be. I watched as his wings unfurled, the bright white feathers shimmering like a halo. But instead of feeling the fear I should have, I felt something else. Something soft, fragile, like the hope of a life I hadn't thought I deserved. Azrael's visits became regular. Each time he came, I expected him to do what he was sent to do. Each time I prepared myself to die. But each time he didn't. We would stand in silence, staring at each other as though trying to read one another. It didn't make sense. He was an angel, and I was nothing but a man, flawed, broken, and unworthy of anything good. But something had shifted. With every visit, the distance between us seemed to shrink. He started speaking to me, questioning me about my life, my sins, as though he wanted to understand who I was beyond the name on the execution list. I don't know when it happened, but at some point I started looking forward to his visits, to the feel of his presence. One night, he arrived as usual, but this time he wasn't the stoic, cold figure I had come to expect. This time, his eyes were heavy with something I couldn't place. "You're not like the others," he said, his voice softer than it had ever been. "I've never met someone like you before." I was about to respond when he stepped closer, and my breath caught in my throat. The air between us grew thick, charged with an unspoken tension. "Azrael," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He didn't respond, just looked down at me with those sad, burning eyes. And for the first time, I saw the vulnerability in him. The human side that had been hidden behind those perfect, angelic features. Before I could stop myself, I reached up and touched his face, tracing the sharp lines of his jaw with my fingertips. His skin was cool to the touch, but it burned me nonetheless. He inhaled sharply, and I knew he was fighting it. He leaned in just a little, his lips brushing against mine. That kiss was the beginning of everything. I hadn't planned it. Hell, I hadn't even wanted it. But the moment his lips touched mine, it felt like the world cracked open. The war between us, the one that had been fought by angels and demons, by humans and gods, felt insignificant. All I cared about was him. Azrael pulled away, his chest heaving with a mix of anger and something else. Something raw. "You don't understand," he whispered, his voice shaking. "This isn't just about us. This is about everything I've ever known." "I know," I said, my heart aching. "But maybe what we're doing is the only thing that matters. Maybe it's time for us to choose who we want to be." His wings trembled, and I saw the conflict raging inside him. The angel who was supposed to destroy me, the warrior of heaven, was starting to break. And I was the one who had caused it. The choice had never been more real. It wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about what was right or wrong. It was about love. A love that had bloomed in the most impossible of places, between a man who had nothing left to lose and an angel who had been born to kill. Azrael stood before me, his wings now folded, his expression torn between duty and desire. "I can't stay away from you," he said, his voice hoarse. "But if I'm with you, I risk everything, my place in heaven, my purpose." I stepped toward him, my heart pounding. What if I'm worth the risk? He didn't speak for a moment. Instead, he closed the distance between us, pulling me into an embrace that felt like home. His lips found mine again, and this time, it wasn't a kiss of hesitation. It was a kiss of surrender. "I can't lose you," he whispered. "Not now. Not ever." And just like that, I knew. There was no turning back. There was no fate for us except the one we created together.